Well, all right, guys, welcome back. My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. Today we are talking about part 2 of the Traxxas TRX4 build series. So this is the TRX4. The first video was completely stock, running around on some obstacles. Today I'm going to try some different obstacles as well as the originals and talk about the differences that we see. So real quick, let's talk about what I've changed on the truck. The bumper mounts on these things. Originally they droop a little bit down from the chassis rails, so if you undo these two screws right here, you can flip the mount over and it will actually raise your front bumper, and then you just have to trim away a little bit of the Lexan. I went ahead and did that on the front and rear, and then I trimmed up the plastics a little bit on the front and rear to make it work better as well. Also on the bottom side, I saw a ton of comments, which by the way, thank you guys so much for that first video's comments, best upgrades to do. I got so many awesome ideas and you guys really know what you're talking about. So if you want ideas, go back to video number 1 and read through all the comments. There's a ton of great stuff in there. Anyway, I went ahead and actually just removed the sliders from the outer portion of the body. Now, a ton of people told me to just cut along the Lexan there. I wanted to try something a little bit different. This will actually make the truck narrower by not having those sliders. So when I get it into a V-notch, which I do quite often out here, the truck will actually be able to sink a little bit down lower, which helps get the tires on the ground easier. So that's the reason I did that. We're gonna try it out, see how it goes, being a little bit different compared to some of your guys' builds. If it's absolutely terrible, hey, we can throw the sliders back on there. Now the next two upgrades I did, one of them is very simple. I changed out the 12mm hexes for some actually plus 8mm wideners. Now the downside to this is that there's just no thread into these little wheel nuts now, and I actually need to get some longer stub shafts coming out of that portal axle, which I already have. I just have not installed them yet, so that's coming up for part 3. The next thing I did was a new servo, because I've been out wheeling this truck on outside of the videos and having some fun with my friends, and I killed this factory servo pretty dang quick. Pretty unfortunate. It didn't completely die, it just stopped turning left 100%, which is really weird. And no, it's not just my steering trim. Yeah, the servo had died, so I replaced that with a Savix 1212 that I had on hand. Waterproof, really high voltage as well as high torque. However, this ESC is not giving it the power to give it its full potential. So yeah, here we go. Lifted bumpers, the sliders are basically lifted and we're gone. Rear a little bit wider hexes there, and so that's going to help the tires reach outside the body a little more. And the final upgrade I did was the different gearing in the rear axle. I did underdrive, which basically turns it into overdrive on the front axle, but instead of making the front tires turn faster, I made the rear tires turn slower. So the truck is geared down just a little bit. Let's go hit the rocks and see how this thing performs. So yeah, guys, I tried to start out with just some simple upgrades like those hex spacers. Those things are pretty inexpensive. I think I got those for like $8 on Amazon. They might be a little more these days, but I've had them for a while actually sitting on the shelf. I ordered them for my SCX-10 II, and they were the wrong part, and I finally bought a TRX4 that I could use them on. Now today's conditions are not completely ideal. There's a little bit of water in the sand today, which makes the sand stick to your tires, and then you lose traction. So maybe not the greatest ever, but we're gonna try it anyway. Now that brings me to a point of these tires. So right here with the bumper mod, the bumper is gonna go ahead and clear right over those rocks, not a problem. The rear bumper is going to allow us to stand the truck up steeper before it starts to drag. So pretty awesome there. It's still just gonna touch a little bit. We're just trying to get our fronts hooked up here. There they go, there they go. This has always been a really hard spot, even for like my most capable crawlers. You can usually get the front end up, but to get it to crawl past this is always real tough. Now I want to talk about the Traxxas tires. These things are wearing out faster than any other tire I've ever used. So it's not such a bad thing. They've got good traction and they break in quick, but I fully believe that I could wear these out with enough trips. And I don't mean like I've wheeled this thing a ton and they're starting to wear. I've taken this on 3 or 4 trips and the side lugs are all starting to strip down, as well as the main lugs of the tire are all starting to ramp up. So you break away that square edge on the leading edge of the tires, which is good. It helps with traction, but these will wear out. But good on Traxxas for making a good compound. I'll give them that. All right, she did it even in the wet sand. Not too bad. Had to get aggressive, but she got it done. All right, let's talk about the underdrive that I installed in this truck. Underdrive only goes in the rear axle because that will make your rear axle turn slower than the front, which therefore creates overdrive in your front axle. Like I mentioned, I prefer to do it that way if I have the option. That way it actually gears the truck down and makes it a slower crawl rather than speed the front end up and make it move faster across the rocks. So where does underdrive or overdrive help you? In something just like this, where you're making a turn, it's going to help pull that front end around and kind of drag the rear end around. It's a little bit easier to make tighter turns with underdrive or overdrive. As well as if you get on something really steep like we were on that last obstacle, once your front tires get over, if the truck is on the edge of tipping, those front tires turning faster will actually help pull it back over the ledge rather than just let the truck push 100% on front and rear. So right here is actually a good spot to talk about the slider mod that we made right there. Lexan just goes ahead and lets us slide, not a problem. And without that hard plastic being there, it allows the truck to drop further down and get more traction on the ground like I mentioned. Did that twice, no problem. All right guys, here's a wall that I know the original bumpers just smashed into when I was driving it around before. So right there, see how the bumper cleared it and I got tire on the ground? I know that with the original bumper mounts, I could not do that. I would just smash my plastic front bumper right into the rocks. Also with the rear, it was stopping me from making any further progress. And here the rear has been lifted enough that it helps get that thing some clearance and help us up the rocks. Now, let's talk about this right here. Once this truck gets too steep, it loves to just roll over backwards. Where the center of gravity is not good on this truck. So like I can't bump through this, it will just try and flip over straight backwards. It lifts the front tires in the air and it tries to roll over backwards. So once you get the better center of gravity, it's not just gonna wanna flip over like that. You should be able to bump up obstacles like this with a better center of gravity. Now the way we're going to change that is actually a forward mounted battery and using a different size battery pack. But that's gonna come in future videos. So for this one, we just kind of want to show where the limits of this truck are. It is not making this climb. Barely got the front bumper through on that line. Rear tires are just hanging in the air from the rear bumper. Finally got the rear tires touched down. Need a little more traction out of them. There it goes. It's close. Oh man, that's close. Come on, TRX4. So this is a perfect obstacle. Like, it's really close. Maybe with some different changes on the truck, we can get it to go up this later. Might have to put this in our obstacles to come back to. Okay, maybe a different line choice. I don't have enough weight on my front tires to make this turn. And the truck's just trying to unload and rotate. Denied. All right, guys, pulling up to this good and steep vertical wall here. Look at how close this front bumper gets. Oh, it actually touches. There it goes. And then the rears, I want to make sure that the rear bumper can get through. It just drags along the bottom. Actually need to line up just a little bit different here. And then once we get the front up and over, without having those sliders down there, it's going to allow for a little more clearance to keep the tires planted, keep our traction going, and to pull this truck right over this ledge. That's a hard climb, and this truck just pulled it off no problem. I'm quickly becoming a big fan of the TRX4. Now, compared to the original video I did not touch the preload on the suspension from the first video, but on this video I have lowered the preload collars basically all the way in the front to help the front settle down, and then I left just a little bit of preload on the rear. Here we've got a pretty aggressive side hill going. Gonna see if we can get this thing to turn around this point. and drive up this ledge. That was pretty good, not too bad. In the future, we may even drop this truck lower and try and get the rails almost all the way down to the axles. We'll have to play with that in the future and see what happens. Now, I've definitely got to send a huge shout out to Sky RC, which is a hobby shop down here in St. George, Utah. If you guys are in the area, be sure to check out Sky RC. Cody over there was very interested in the series and wants to see what I can make this thing do. Looking like this ledge is just too much double-faced at the top. I don't know if there's going to be any way to crawl this right now. Maybe in the future. And so that's what's hard about making this video, is we want to film some stuff that's impossible and we want to show off what is possible as well. So what would make this possible? Maybe better traction from some different tires, a little more weight down low, and then maybe even dropping that suspension might help as well. Unless I just jump from the bottom to the top. Pretty close. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here for part 2 on the Traxxas TRX4 build. Now, in the future, we've got a lot of little things that are really going to add up to a great overall package. Like I've always mentioned, I wanna make this thing just absolutely perform as best we can. The servo I actually upgraded before I really intended, and we're probably gonna get a new power plant in it eventually as well. New wheels and tires, gonna do some shock tuning, do an LCG servo, I think it's a servo relocation, LCG battery mount and whatnot. So we've got some cool things coming on this TRX4 Sport. I hope you guys get subscribed, and also if you're looking for a hoodie or a shirt to get you through the season that you're in, be sure to check the link down below, as West Desert Wheeler merch is now available. We've got 2 different logos going on there, and I'll be sure to leave that link down in the bio. Affiliate links down below. Anything you purchase for these trucks through the AMain affiliate link is going to support my channel as well, and I would greatly appreciate it. It's going to keep me out here testing and on the rocks as much as possible. So until next time, keep the rubber side down. We'll see you guys in the next one.